we go. 5:30. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. This is Mainframer's Meetup. I'm Marcus Davidge. I work for BMC Software, and I'm your host for tonight. And today's topic is Generation AI. And have we got an interesting agenda for you? Have we? I don't know. Let's click next and see what happens. So here we go. Today's agenda. We have Kevin Engelke from Beta Systems. We have Catherine Moxie and Sam Catling from IBM. We've got Venkat and Vaughan from Broadcom and Tim Saradsky from BMC, all talking about different ways of artificial intelligence and how it impacts our lives. So without further ado, let's explain what Mainframers is. We were initially based around a London community, physically meeting from time to time with pizzas, beers, cokes, and gossip. We were community driven, organized originally by IBMers and the wider community. We were supported by clients, partners, with over 580 members and growing. We've had 6 events since 2018, and tonight is our 7th. We like to run in-person events about 3 or 4 times per year, but this virtual setup allows us to run much more frequently. So let's meet some of the team. There we are, a really good-looking bunch, I must admit. If you're at all interested in joining our happy gathering, then you can find us on Meetup, Slack, or LinkedIn. So make a note of those URLs and join the party. If you'd like to get involved, tell us on Slack or just message us directly. So, first of all, let's go beyond text and discover the rise of multimodal Gen AI. Let me welcome Kevin Engelke from Beta Systems, not Beetlejuice.
Thank you for having me with you. Great. Just let me take the screen share right now. Okay, cool. Should be viewable for everyone. Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me for this presentation today on Beyond Text, the Rise of Multimodal Gen AI. I'm very excited to give the scene or to set the scene for this AI event here, especially for the Mainframers community. And I would say time is limited, 50 minutes I have, so let us jump right into the presentation itself. Before we start with the presentation, maybe a short introducing about myself. My name is Kevin Engelke. I work as a lead AI architect at Beta Systems Software AG in Germany. I'm located in Berlin. I'm a big open source software advocate. I want to say a thank you for the invitation, especially to Andrew and Matthew, who has reached out to me. And I want to give out a special thanks for everyone attending to the presentation of today. Looking for some exciting exchanges with you guys. Okay, what we will talk about, I've brought with me 3 topics for today. The first one is the journey to multimodal AI. So think about what was the path, where are we coming from, what might be the next step, and where are we currently in the AI space. Then after that one, I will talk about cross-platform usage, how AI can be used on different platforms, and how we can benefit from different libraries over here. And last but not least, some glimpses of what's next. It's about ideas, wishes, expectation from my side, and also from all the feedback I got from different podcasts and impressions from all the material I'm reading. Okay, about the journey. So back in the days when also I started with AI in general, most of the AI problems or solutions we have built were called narrow AI by today. Narrow AI are AI solutions which are highly specialized for a given task and mostly are only capable to tackle the specific task. So they were not transferable to something else. Some topics on that which you can think of is sentiment analysis in text, maybe spam filters, image classification, stuff like that in general. Then, with the big topic of Gen AI, generative AI, we get by some great developers new ways to create content. So you can create content of a specific type. You have like ChatGPT for text generation, chatting. You would have some AI for image upscaling, for extend given audio files, stuff like that, which make it pretty awesome to work with. Then one step further, where we are today, multimodal AI. And multimodal AI is pretty easily described and a little bit simplified, fusing together multiple types of different data. So the AI is not longer limited to have text as an input and text as an output, but it could also have different type of input data like text, images, video, audios, and different combinations also, and can also return or have an output of different formats right here. Final thing you can imagine is you have an AI which you gave in an existing image and some text which describe how to change it, and it can work with both of that. And this path, hopefully for the future, and this one for sure is pretty much simplified, goes to AGI and ASI. For sure, I just want to mention over here, multimodal AI brought us one step closer to the solution. And even if I'm aware of AGI and FAI, may are not the best acronyms and we can definitely argue about, but they are the most commonly used ones. So I will just use them also in my case. And when we talk about AGI, that stands for Artificial General Intelligence. So we speak about AI, which is capable of performing on human level intelligence. And when talking about ASI, I would say that's a champion challenge over here. We're talking about artificial super intelligence, which is going even beyond every capabilities human being have. Okay, talking about cross-platform, because I would say AI is being trained in different environments. We are reading on the news about different architecture, stuff like that, everything which can be used. I just want to give a short introducing about how it is working. For sure, we have different hardware which we can train AI on. I would say it's possible to train AI on CPUs, but because most of the problems today are solved by by floating point calculus, it is mostly not used anymore, and we are talking a lot about GPUs in general, which are more specialized for floating point calculus. For sure, there is also different hardware, which is highly specialized to do all the mathematics here and all the calculus, which is by one for sure, the IBM Talon processor or even Google TPUs. And I can just say I work at Beta Systems with GPUs, IBM Talon processor in our set 16 in Berlin, which we have. And this combination is pretty awesome. Next, we have for sure different frameworks, because it's always the same when there are developers, there are different types of developers and you need different frameworks. But for sure, it can be a little bit tricky because AI by different frameworks can be created in different ways, used in different ways. And for sure, each of those frameworks like PyTorch, TensorFlow, or Keras bring in different benefits and different disadvantages. But in the end, you can just say they are quite the same, just make some things a little bit different and are more highly specialized for individual needs and preferences here. And giving the challenge of different hardware and different frameworks, when we take a look on AI models in general, what are AI models? AI models are pretty simple. An AI model is just a big mathematical equation when you do it or when you do describe it in a simple way. It has a specific architecture, which just say how all the neurons are connected to each other, what is the math behind it. And for sure, you have coefficients, which we mostly call parameters, which are the trainable floating point numbers. In the end, when you simplify an AI model, it can be saved in a single file or in multiple smaller files if you want to split it up a little bit due to hardware limitation or something like that. But AI models are just mathematical calculus. And so it is possible to transfer between those different frameworks and different hardware. And there's one awesome library given, which is called ONNX, stands for Open Neural Network Exchange Platform. And that gave us the opportunity, as an example, by Beta Systems, that we were able to train some of our AI models on Linux machines using GPUs, and later we have been able to transfer them to IBM Talon processor based on TensorFlow and run them there. So you can imagine your training environment for the AI can differ from the production environment in general, which make it pretty exciting to be used. When we think about multimodal AI, what is it? What are different data types over here? In the middle, for sure, we have our AI solution, which we want to give all this great data into. And for sure, we have text. I mean, like text since ChatGPT is pretty known for AI, you can write text, rewrite text, doing coding, which is in the end also just text, which I also use at my work to use AI coding. And you can even use it for translate in many different ways. Then I would say also pretty common are images. You can create images, and I mostly use them for my LinkedIn profile, stuff like that. So you can generate art, different stock images. You can resize them. Restoration of images is something I would say which is not so widely known right now. You can describe image, so image to text, or even modify them. Next, we have audio. You can generate music. And what I can just say is what I've discovered a couple of months ago is there are very much channels out there on Spotify, on YouTube, which are just hosting generated music, and it sounds pretty good. And I can also say that in Germany, we had one song which was AI generated, which reached like the German charts on place number 48. So I would say, but just by saying that, it has a high influence. When you think about audio, we can also think about voice cloning. So imagine I'm now presented in English, but someone will hear me live in German, in Italian language, whatever needed. And it's also been rolled out to some YouTube videos right now. And you can imagine translation in general. Then we have video, for sure. Video, if we have image, a video is just a sequence of images which are highly dependent on each other, but we can also use it to describe, extend, or generate video in general. And then something I would say maybe not known by everyone, 3D models. I would say like Meta and Facebook are pretty common over there, using it for virtual reality environments, augmented reality environments. And when you now think about multimodal AI, you can think of an AI model or multiple small models, which have the capabilities here of using, combine, and mixing all these different formats over here, data formats. So you could have an AI which you're giving in a text and an image to create a new image. You could have an AI where you put in a text and a video to get the audio for the video itself, or you could have an AI which you give in a text, a 3D model to create new models. So all these different combinations or even models which can process them one by one or put them out in different formats. And that one is pretty awesome to work with and give us complete new opportunities. I brought with me one example of multimodal AI just to show it to you real quick here. And this one is by Alan AI. Mormo calls the service. The link is on the bottom right corner. I would definitely recommend it. Visit the site over here. And what I did over here is I've downloaded a picture from Unsplash and have said, hey, Mormo, can you describe this image to me? And I've got a description in full text, and I had to cut it down over here because it was like 3 paragraphs long. It was very detailed, and I can just say the description itself is pretty good, I would say. But then I said, okay, that is just a text and an image and describe it. So having text as an output. So I said to the same AI solution over here, can you point out to all the cars in the image? And I just got back the same image with an overlaying little surface over here with little pink dots. I can for sure already mention it does not work always perfect, and there are some room for improvement. But at least from my side, when I visited this or viewed at the picture my first time, I would have missed this little pink dot on the left side, so the little car on the left side over here. So it also got a little bit better than me at the first blink here. And then what I also said, I can make my prompt a little bit more detailed. So I say, hey, can you point out to all the red cars over here? And it also did it great for me. I need to admit, and for sure, I would say finding cars in the images is not always the only thing we need to tackle. But when I think about this solution over here and all the new opportunities we get, like I think about a solution where I standing in front of the mainframe for my first time. I know back in the day when I was an apprentice, when I did so, and it would be awesome to have my mobile phone with me, having the camera turned on, just filming my mainframe and ask it for all the different parts of hardware which are installed there, how it is working when I search for a specific component, where it's built in. And I think about whole new opportunities to work with AI over here by just fusing together different types of data. For sure, there are new ways to learn something and to discover the world. And as mentioned, I can just suggest to you to visit the websites. They have some great examples over there already in the examples list. It's definitely worth a try. So because time runs fast and I want to think about a little bit about the future of AI in general, I think about myself, what's coming next, and listen to some great podcasts out there and what is currently the limit. So when I think about AI, I want to have actionable AI. So an AI which goes beyond content creation and fusing together different type of formats of data. So what I used AI latest for was planning my vacation a couple of weeks ago. And it was pretty cool for me to have like a action list in text, what I can do, what I have to take with me, all the stuff like that. But then in the end, I wanted to have an AI agent which I can just say, hey, can you please book my flight, book my hotel, my stay there, and do it in some way which automated over there. And maybe to get to a more, I would say, a more technical example, if I read about a documentation about maybe creating new users on my system, I want to have an AI system which is not only able to provide me a step-by-step guide, but just do it for me on its own. That would be great. And I think that is coming next because a lot of people are working on AI agents out there which are actionable. The next one is for sure AI integration in our everyday life. It's already, I would say, proceeding out there. And by getting integrated in our everyday life, there's more data and give it more power in general. I can just say use AI, I would say, daily on my smartphone on virtual reality glasses, which I have over here. But I can also imagine like robots. So if you think about going out in the world, you can feel the environment. You have different kind of sensors, get more from the world outside and learn it better to understand, and not just by text and images, but by experience the world out there by your own. I think that will be a game changer when robots can do it using AI. For sure, there are also different tools and applications, and I hope they will be easy to access for everyone and hopefully even offline for data privacy reasons. But I think there will be some solutions given. And what I can just say as an example to give you an idea, I remember me a couple of days ago standing in my living room having my earpods in and just talking with ChatGPT about this presentation right here, getting some inspiration, some insights, and just have an exchange with an AI agent. I would say a bit strange, but definitely gave me some input to the presentation, how I want to do it. And last but not least, for sure, customizability. I think of an AI system which is highly personalized, tailored to your individual needs, not just by knowing who you are and give your answers you would like, but also know maybe your technical level. If I want to have an explanation of AI, it might be on another level than someone else. Or when I asking about the mainframe, it might have my knowledge, recognize it, and can then answer in a language which is the most, I would say, processable or understandable for me in general. To end this presentation here, because I'm looking forward to all the other great slides and presentations, I want to end the presentation with a quote. And this quote by Sam Altman, which I'm a big fan of, he's the CEO of OpenAI. Generative AI is still in its early stage, and we only scratch the surface of what it can do. And I highly believe it. We have all the input data from the internet, which was crawled, but I think having it, interacting with our environment, being more personalized, there's so much more to come, and that will definitely be a game changer in general. On my last slide, I can just say, I'm so excited. I'm so happy to be here with you for today. Thanks for having me with you. If you have some question right now, it's a good point to ask him right now. Otherwise, I can just say, let us get connected. If you want to know something I do at Beta Systems, how we tackle project, what we are doing, please reach out to me, visit our website, or also reach out to me and connect on LinkedIn, and let us have some exchange together. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. That was really cool. I don't know about anybody else, but I really enjoyed that. That was cool. Yeah, so please get in touch. Let me share the screen. Please get in touch with Kevin if you want him to answer any more questions. Please keep the chat coming. This is really interesting discussion that's going on. And let's move on to our next presenters, Catherine Moxie and Sam Catling. They're both from IBM. Topic is Don't Wait for Better Choices, with the accent on the AI. Talking about AI acceleration on IBM Z. So take it away.
Thanks for the introduction, Marcus. Although I would add, we say IBM Z. I'll just get the slides up ready. And you should be able to see the first one. So just to introduce myself and Catherine again, I'm actually a designer, so I work in UX and visual design for a little product called ZOS Connect in the Kix family of products. And Catherine, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm at IBM STSM, and my focus is around AI for the IBM Z application platform, so the runtimes that run on IBM Z.
Brilliant. So what we're going to show you today is kind of an insight into the art of the possible. So the story that we're going to take you through, it doesn't exist today, but as mainframe practitioners, we wanted to show you how you can utilize AI for good and find really interesting ways in which you can use the power of it, especially when working with Z infrastructure. So Catherine.
I'm sorry, I was busy answering a question.
Oh,
I apologise. Yeah, absolutely. So this is really just to remind you about the awesome things you can do with AI on the IBM Z16, which was the machine that introduced the Telum processor, and that has the on-chip acceleration for AI. So that really allows people to start using AI models directly in their transactions and get insights in real time, but without the sort of latency of either calling out from the platform or having quite heavy duty AI processing, because the accelerator assists with that. And there's some data on the slide that shows the benefits that give in terms of the number of inferencing requests you can do. Inferencing is really a term referred to using an AI model to get a prediction or a score or some sort of insight, and the fact that you can get much higher throughputs and lower response times by doing that within your transactions directly on the processor, and also the fact that it lowers your energy consumption by doing that. So that's the capabilities introduced by the Telum processor. If we move on, Sam, this is actually a schematic of a processor that isn't available yet. It's just been announced. It's Telum 2. It looks pretty similar to Telum, especially in terms of where you can see the AI accelerator positioned on the chip. And that accelerator can be accessed by both with Telum and Telum 2 by the other CPs on the chip. So it gives you the ability to directly send the AI type processing to that accelerator. So that's the Telum 2. And Telum 2 and another accelerator called Spire were announced at Hot Chips just recently. So Telum 2 is focused on really, I guess, enhancing the ability to optimize traditional AI models. So that's in a way the kind of the narrow type of AI that Kevin talked about. And Kevin, you gave a brilliant introduction to some of what we're going to be covering here. So thank you for that. And that is addressing those kinds of specific use cases where you do have a particular thing you want to do. It's very valuable for that because it does it very efficiently. As you get more into the generative AI and can do a broader set of things, and that's where the Spire accelerator is going to be aimed at. It's a PCIe attached. accelerator, and that will get us into more of the doing generative AI types of processing actually on the platform. So that's some sort of hot off the press news, but we're going to be focusing, as Sam introduced, on the art of the possible with the existing IBM Z acceleration.
Yes, and we wanted to also ground you in some cool stuff that already exists as well around AI in IBM Z. So obviously, we're going to be IBM is covering things around fraud detection, so being able to do 100% real-time scoring of fraud detection across a large bank. They're doing things like reduction of latency for over 1,000 times for loan approvals. And then things like being able to deploy our AI on IBM Z16 to ensure the security of data and optimization of IT and operational costs. And of course, there's also a lot of work that had been done around claims fraud and being able to process the claims much faster than they were previously able to. But as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. And what I wanted you guys to do is if you have a mobile phone on you, or you want to have a look on your laptop, although it is easier on a phone, if you can scan this QR code. I'm just going to switch to Slido now, and I will share a different window so that you can see it. And we're basically just going to go through a poll. And I'm just interested in seeing what your thoughts are with the first piece of data that we've got here. So if I can get it up. So if you can scan the QR code, and what you might need to do is put the code in that we've got here. I have a question for all of you. So if you had the choice of two apples, and apple A is 34p and apple B is 52p, if you can just select which one you would pick, we'd be interested in seeing what your answer would be. So it looks like the apple A is creeping up, 80% of people out of the 11 people that have answered would pick apple A. All right, B is creeping up a little bit. Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Well, thank you for those answers. So it looks like the answer that's coming in is Apple A is the most popular. And I'm not too surprised by that answer. 34p is cheaper than 52p. And when you've only got that information, you're going to go for the cheaper Apple, aren't you? I'd be intrigued, though, to find out what caused people to pick the other one as well. If we go to our next question. So if I told you now that these apples are the same price, so apple A is 34p, but it's flown from the other side of the world to the country that you're currently in right now. But apple B is locally grown from somewhere just down the road from where you live. Which one would you pick, apple A or apple B? So it looks like apple B is now winning, despite it being 52p more. People are looking from the looks of it, although I'll wait until and be a bit more patient and see if we can get the 17 in. Yeah, from the looks of it, apple B is winning out. So that's quite interesting. If I stop sharing this, and then I'll share my other screen again. So
so that's actually very much in accordance with a survey that was done this back to 2022, but so maybe things have changed a bit since then. But this survey did discover that half of the people they surveyed said they'd be willing to pay more to take the sustainable option. So that's something that's certainly borne out, at least by the poll. But however, the survey also found that actually people found it quite hard to do that. So it was less than 1 in 3 who said that actually they were making up more than half of their purchases were what they called sustainable products. So that got us thinking about, could we make that easier for people? So over to Sam.
So let's cut to Anya. Anya is a shopper that's similar to a lot of you that voted, where you want to go and buy something that's more locally grown, support local businesses, and also be able to do something that's a bit better for the environment. So your apple isn't flown over loads of air miles. So you've got the intention of being more ethical and more eco-friendly. And you try and buy more ethically sourced and eco-friendly items, but it's really difficult to do so because you're always in a hurry. You don't really know what is the best choice. It's really difficult to be able to fit it into your weekly shop, and you're often confused by the type of messaging and information that's available to you about how ethical or environmentally friendly a product is. So we're going to go through Anya's story here. And Anya goes to her favourite supermarket website, Goodco, to do her standard weekly shop. So she goes into Goodco's website, she logs into her account, and then she starts adding items to her grocery order and clicks to add a Pink Lady apple.
So let's leave Anya there for a moment to show what's happening behind the scenes. So Goodco run their processing on Kix transaction server, because on IBM Z, why would you not? And initially what that application did was each time she puts something in her basket, that drives a transaction in Kix, which does a number of things, such as getting some details about the item, its current price, and so on from a database. So that's what's able to display back to Anya details about her purchase. However,
what happens is when Anya takes to add the Pink Lady to the apple, she gets recommended another option, a more green option, a locally grown option of a Braeburn apple that Anya actually quite likes. She likes a Braeburn apple, and win-win, it's a little bit cheaper for her. So she decides to swap the Pink Lady apple and put the Braeburn apple into her basket.
So how did we, how were we able to present Anya with an option that actually was attractive to her and that she decided to select? So let's say we take all of the, lots of data about all the shoppers, not just Anya. We gather data about the items they've been purchasing, some details about those items, and also about those shoppers and things they've been buying previously. And we could use that to train an AI model. In this case, we're building a deep learning model, which is going to be able to be a clustering model that will group the customers, place them in clusters of customers with similar preferences and interests. So having built the model, we could then export that in the format that Kevin mentioned earlier, this Onyx exchange format. The reason for doing that is that allows us to import that model into machine learning for IBM ZOS, which is going to be running on IBM Z. So if we move on to the next slide, we can take that model. Oh, it's playing again.
There we go, this one.
So what's happening, what we can enhance that application to do is within the transaction, take information about Anya, what she's put in her basket, what else she's got in her basket, perhaps some history about her previous shopping, and that would all be features that are input into our model. And the model will then be able to identify the best cluster that Anya fits into. And from there, we can look up recommendations that we have a good, we have a good expectation that those are things that shoppers like Anya will be interested in, like the Braeburn apple option.
Right. So we continue back to Anya's story, and she's adding more stuff to her basket, and she decides she's been really good this week, and she's not usually very good in the week, and she wants to buy a chocolate bar. So she goes to try and add a chocolate bar to her basket.
So that's interesting because Anya doesn't usually buy chocolate. So if we had if we're doing this by some sort of simple lookup of Anya's preferences, we wouldn't be able to do anything really interesting about her chocolate choice. But because we're able to, in each transaction, make this call out to our AI model, and I just a little apologies for this diagram, because all the animation, we haven't quite updated it. It should say machine learning for IBM ZOS scoring server. But that aside, we're able to use that model, and we can, because of the speed that the on-chip AI acceleration gives us, we can call that model each time we process a transaction, and then make a decision as to whether there is a better recommendation we want to make to Anya for this item. So in this case, it turns out there is.
Yes, so what happens is when Anya makes the selection for Yum Milk Chocolate, she actually gets recommended Beans Chocolate, which is a fair trade chocolate bar. And while it's a little bit more expensive, because it's a one-off for Anya, she actually thinks, oh, do you know what? I'll swap it in and have that as a treat and do a little bit of good while I'm buying that chocolate bar. So at the end of Anya's shopping experience, she's able to check out and find out that she's able to save she's been able to be 18% more environmentally friendly than her previous shop and 32% more ethical because she's purchased more fair trade and more ethical products in comparison to last time. And so Anya can get to the end of her shop feeling like she's done a little bit of good and make better choices when it comes to her weekly shop.
So that's kind of a win-win for Anya and Goodco. And we just wanted to really wrap up by highlighting that the solution itself also has sort of environmental and ethical benefits. So I guess we're Mainframer Z. We probably all know that the IBM Z platform is very good in terms of its carbon footprint and its greenness. So we just wanted to kind of highlight that aspect, but also in terms of that ethical aspect, that's something that is very important to us as we look at adopting AI. IBM's got a big focus around the ethics of AI and doing AI in a responsible way, and certainly the what's next set of products feeds into that, with a particularly what's next .governance having a focus on making it very making it easier to ensure that things are done transparently, without bias, that you can explain how the AI reached its decisions, and so on. So those two aspects are sort of built into the solution as well.
Great. Thanks, Catherine. And we'll leave it there so that we have enough time for the next speakers. But if you do have any more questions, just pop them in the chat or feel free to reach out to me at the end of the session.
I'm really enjoying these. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Catherine. Really well done. And I love the way that you played off each other and coordinated your presentation together. Going to have a few tips.
We've had a lot of practice.
Great. That was really good. Next slide. Okie dokes. Who have we got next? So we've got generative AI use cases and research update from Broadcom. And from Broadcom, we have Venkat Baladrapatruni, and Vaughan Marshall. Over to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. And Catherine, Sam, that is a really hard act to follow here. So we are here to share some of the learnings from our journey to leverage and also use generative AI internally, as well as to experiment with some commercial possibilities in terms of products and solutions. So I'm Venkat Balabhadrapatruni. I'm a distinguished engineer in the Broadcom Mainframe Software Division, and joining me is Vaughan. Vaughan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm a product manager at Broadcom, responsible primarily for Endeavor, and very interested in working with Venkat on some use cases around how we might apply generative AI in the Endeavor product space.
Yep. Thank you. So, like everybody here and probably around the world, we have been trying to learn, understand, and apply generative AI in a meaningful way. And as part of that, we started a journey where we have talked to our development teams internally as well as our customers to figure out what are the core set of use cases where generative AI would be really applicable, and what are those key problems that this technology can help solve. And that journey landed us with two on primary use cases. One, what we are calling as the Code for Z code assistant. And no surprise there, right? Pretty much every one of you here know that the first and the foremost application when it comes to the application development world, application of Gen AI when it comes to application development world was developing coding assistants. You know, how can we make the developers' lives easy? So there is no surprise there, but we'll talk about the approach that we took in a second. And the second one was focus internally on how can we make the lives of our support people more efficient. How can they look up, figure out the solutions to various tickets that are being thrown at them, and look at the history of the past use tickets or problems and help address the customer needs in a faster way. So the left side, the code assistant part, is something that we have made available for our customers to play with. And I'll explain why I'm using the word play with in a minute. And the support assistant is exclusively being used internally by our support team. And they are in the process of trying to figure out how to optimize the responses we're getting from the chatbot as these support folks are interacting with a model to help answer the questions. So our approach is, based on the several conversations that we had. I mean, we are dealing in the mainframe world. A lot of organizations wanted on-prem model to ensure that their data or source code doesn't leave their premises. So that was one of our key tenets in terms of how we want to approach this problem, is to land on a large language model that can be deployed on-prem in any customer organization or anywhere, even for us. And in addition to that, ensure that it is ethically trained, because one of the biggest questions regarding generative AI is about the data that it's been trained on and how well it's been trained on. Does it have the right licensing terms? What is the bias? How much, what is the level of hallucinations? And that is the governance aspect of it, were the key aspects that we weighed on. And we are big into leveraging open source and contributing to open source. So we said, let's look in the open source world to see what are there any of models that exist out there that kind of fit the bill. And that led to us picking Mistral AI from Hugging Face. And for folks who are not familiar with Hugging Face, think of it as a GitHub of the large language models. There are several large language models for all of the use cases that Kevin was talking about, for text processing, audio processing, video processing, that are available out there and are open source, and you can see the data that the models have been trained on. So it is very transparent. And then we started playing with it. And we played with it in terms of how much of COBOL would this large language model understand. And what we learned was, it understands some COBOL, but not much. Then we said, what if we train this model with additional COBOL data? And we found an open source COBOL data set. So it's a zip file with a bunch of COBOL source programs. Well, technically not all COBOL programs. It had a mix of Python, C as well in there. So we kind of threw them away, took the pure COBOL open source data set, and fine-tuned this base foundation model and created our own instance of Mistral AI that's running on-premise.
And I think I was just going to say, Venkat, I think this is also a very interesting area in the world of SCMs like Endeavor. So I imagine a lot of the people on the call, their shops have all sorts of different assets. And I think one of the key things when it comes to code assistance is they want to be able to tune things with their own code. So that when they get answers or when they are generating things, they're getting very, very fine-tuned answers. And the other aspect that you touched on is without necessarily having their IP leak into the open source itself.
Exactly. Excellent point, Juan. I mean, this is something that we learned as we were working with numerous customers is everybody has their own set of coding standards. The additional data, metadata, documentation around the code, the business aspects of the relationships between the code and the requirements, all of that is something these organizations control. They have the data somewhere. To be able to fine-tune or add that with their own source code and data to be able to get that precise responses and to handle any custom code and stuff like that, it'll be really easy for organizations to take that model and run with it. So that's the backend piece of it. And then the user interaction is through VS Code. So we have a set of VS Code extensions to help modernize the developer experience. And we kind of enhanced that user experience to include the GenAI capabilities. So again, one of the aspects that Kevin, you were referring to in your deck was about integration. And the way we are approaching and looking at it is, how can GenAI be yet another tool in the toolbox that would help organizations, developers, system programmers, anybody who's dealing with mainframe or the whole enterprise, make their lives better, easier, and more productive, right? That's the approach that we took. So that's for the code assistant. And the support assistant, as I mentioned, it's a virtual assistant or a chat bot to get assistance on very targeted topics. So I have a couple of screen caps here, which is, simple questions like what are the different mainframe ESMs? And it would give you a response of what the ESM means, what are the different ESMs, and a product overview. And to get here, all we had to do was pick an open source model and point it to the Broadcom technical documentation and knowledge base articles. So knowledge base articles are the ones that our support team publishes to address some of the tickets or the issues that are being raised. So it's a living document that anybody can go refer to if they run into the same issue. And the information from our communities. And we just pointed it to those documents, have it, index it, and then use that to answer a few questions. So that's at a very high level as to what the two use cases that we landed on and the purpose of it. Now, obviously, seeing is believing. So I'll do a real quick demo of the Code for Z Assistant capabilities and what it looks like from a user's experience. So just to confirm, are you guys able to see my VS Code?
I certainly can.
Okay. And I'm assuming it is probably too hard to read, so let me blow it up a little bit. Is this better?
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Awesome.
Looks good on my end.
So here I'm sitting in VS Code. Here is a GitHub repo, AWS Mainframe Modernization Card Demo application. It's a COBOL application that's out there. And I can open up the COBOL program. And the very first thing that a developer would do, and this is, again, something that that came out of our discussions internally as well as externally, is developers are trying to figure out how to make the change and where to make the change, and also to assess the impact. And before that, they need to have a basic understanding of what is this particular program doing? What is it responsible for? Because we all know, right? Traditionally, the COBOL programs have been very well documented. Yeah, they're not. So rather than running through a debugger, right? How can somebody figure out what this particular program is doing? So that is the basic building block of the use case that we targeted. So what I'll do here is I'll select the entire source program, do Command L, which puts me into this chat interface, and I can say explain. And what it is doing is, as you can see here, the in-house in the lower left-hand corner of this box, that is going after our that red box that you saw on the other screen, which is the trained model. And the output that you would get from that is pretty basic in the sense of it is 3 sections. What is the brief summary? What does this program doing? And then split it up into code categorization. If you look at COBOL programs in general that are out there, mostly they're dealing with data, manipulating it, either their online transactions, reading data, or updating data, merging data. So at a very high level, what is this? Where does this program fall into? What is that it's doing? So calculate or manipulate data, update data, send and receive, and then it goes into additional details talking about what is this program logic and the flow is in plain English. And it'll also give you information about the copybooks that this program is referring to. So some of the additional information like the dependencies that it has. Now, at this point in this chat window, I can ask additional questions. I can say /test suggest a set of type unit test cases to test this program. And it would go in and get me a list of the set of test recommendations to test this particular program. Now, if you think about it, in the mainframe world, for a developer who is responsible for making the changes, either enhancement or bug fixes, and to be able to validate those changes and figuring out what are the different tests to run. I mean, previously we used to have written test cases. Some are automated, some are not. But this can serve as a starting point for them to say, hey, go through these set of steps and validate if the right things are happening. Now, for the demo purposes, I selected the entire file, but I can scope it down to an individual paragraph or two that I, as a user, am responsible for making changes. And if I make a change in that particular paragraph, the set of test recommendations can be targeted for that paragraph only. So the idea here is to enable the developers be more productive while they're doing their day-to-day job of managing, maintaining, enhancing existing applications. And again, from this chat window, I can also say something like git diff are all the changes in my workspace. Now you must be thinking, hey, this is VS Code, Git repo. I can go here and say, what are the different changes? I can get a list here. But what this does is it gives me additional metadata about a specific change. So there are 3 changes in my workspace, and it describes what that specific change is. Now imagine working in an environment with 10, 15, 20 developers collaborating with each other, trying to make changes to the same application code base, and figuring out what are the different changes, and the context or the reasoning behind that change is really critical and important for developers to understand. So it's again the idea of making these things readily available at the fingertips so that they can do their job more efficiently. Now, we started this session or this event by the question of, is it a trick or treat? And the answer in my mind, based on our experiences, it's both. The trick part here is to get to this point, there was a lot of learning that we went through in terms of what is the right set of data to train the model for it to generate the required explanation that would serve as a starting point for a novice user, novice COBOL developer, as well as an experienced COBOL developer. And then the other part was the classic notion of garbage in, garbage out applies here as well. If you do not have good training data, the output that you're going to get is not going to be good either, right? So having the data to be cleansed is key. Once you overcome those tricks and also understand the nuances about the models and the different parameters that Kevin was referring to, including the size, the context window, which is the number of tokens that can be passed, and how to manipulate some of those things, you can definitely get to the treat, which is the value that developers can get from this technology and how that can change the whole paradigm of application development, understanding, and analysis in the future or near future. So with that, any questions, I'd be here. I'll be more than happy to answer that. And I'll stick around for a little bit after this session to answer any questions. Juan, anything that you want to add?
No, I would just say that, first of all, great job, Venkat, and all the speakers as well. If any of you are Endeavor customers and are interested in seeing what this might look like and hooked up to Endeavor or features around that, I'd be interested in talking to you. But yeah, awesome job, Venkat.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Venkat. Thanks, Vaughan. Another great presentation. This is really cool. I love seeing what you're doing with AI and coding. So moving on. Let's go to Tim Saradsky, work colleague of mine at BMC. Great to have you on board, Tim. And he's going to be talking about Gen AI streamlining mainframe development. So let's see what we've got to offer.
All right. I just want to confirm you can see my screen.
Yep, loud and clear.
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing, in this space and try to help, talk about the architecture. We certainly could do a demo of similar things in some respects, with obviously some differences, but I want to really kind of position things about what we're trying to accomplish. And in a nutshell, all of our mainframe offerings, we've really, our strategy is to build them as automated mainframe intelligence. So every tool that we build, we're placing it into this infrastructure and being able to then pull it together and empower all of our workers and users to be able to do a unified approach and have a common screen of glass, have a common way of thinking about things, so that we can, when you go to apply AI, that it actually works consistently across your entire mainframe experience. And so this AMI platform that we talk about is really, it's a bigger picture strategic vision of what we're trying to build out. And we're trying to not lock you into one technology or another, because if there's one thing that's consistent in the AI space right now, is that it's not consistent. It's growing by leaps and bounds. There's new models being released almost on a daily, weekly basis. All you have to do is go look at Hugging Face and other sites and just try to keep up with the different models. That there's a lot of companies out here training new models, etc. And we don't want to be in the business of picking winners in that. We want to be in the business of empowering you to pick the winner for you that you want to work with today, and still leave your options open for changing that out for the future as well. So just some basic vision things that we try to build around. We want to make it simple. We want to ensure that it's relevant, that it's efficient, and it's familiar, that you don't have problems in trying to implement this, not just with the really smart technical people in your team, but also the rank and file people that all they want to do is get in, do their job. So you can see here, you can scan the QR code if you want to go see our platform statement of direction. That should give you some more background on some of the information that we launched in July. But let's just look at kind of the problem that we're wrestling with here. And we're trying to really help the industry move to this platform that supports the next gen mainframer. And you can see here some of the thoughts that we have around what is a next gen mainframer. They're new to the mainframe perhaps, or they're new in their career. They probably know cloud concepts. They know modern languages. They use REST APIs and so on, but they're more dependent on modern tooling than our traditional mainframe teams are, and they don't necessarily have time to get all the domain knowledge before they're asked to be successful. So all of these things, and compliments to all of the presenters. I think you can really see how rich the experience is for the next gen mainframer coming down the pike, because it's really creating a new way of working here. And so if we go back a moment to just looking at the traditional 3270 JCL Rex PL1 classic web GUI type of interface, we've always built tools in these 6 categories: DevX, the developer experience, our ops tools, data, security, storage, cloud, etc. So those are the tool sets. And there's a traditional GUI interface on the web, 3270, etc. So that's the way it's always been done. And you go in and you work with those tools. But we're building this AMI platform with the specific intent of creating a consistent model that all of these different tooling, these different product lines will be able to have a consistent interface and leverage the power of AI. So these will be cloud native from the get-go, built on RESTful services, so you can plug them into your pipelines, a DevOps pipeline like a Jenkins or GitHub Actions. You can plug it into any of those type of platforms, because at that point it's RESTful APIs. You don't care. With all the goodness of CLIs and SDKs and all of these types of things, DevOps is all about supporting the entire industry, not just making it one brand, one platform that you must have. Everybody must play the same, pay the same people to get access to it. So we really try to build things that are open and connected to anybody that wants to come to the table. And that enables us then to build in these Gen AI experiences that are designed, and we call it AMI Assistant. It's a very common term. Everybody talks about it, a AI assistant or whatever. So we're in that train as well with what we call AMI Assistant. But the idea is, like everybody's saying, explain complexities, recommend a solution path that makes sense, be able to base that knowledge not just on some LLM that may have been trained or may not be trained in the intricacies of the mainframe, but be able to also take advantage of all the knowledge that the system has about your infrastructure. And so by building this platform out, this is what we're being able to do, something that really is kind of really cool, and be able to do a lot of these different things and connect them together. So if we expand that platform out a minute and we talk about what that means, we're building an API gateway. We build a console interface, a UI for this, so that users can interact with the platform. No matter what tool they're attempting to use, they have a consistent look and feel to how they can plug in together with it. And that gives us those platform common services. Means we have the CLI and SDK that support these things. And that allows us to deliver services like a GPT service that any tool, any application can take advantage of. Data services that are AI driven. Discovery services to go out and find these different things that exist in the overall, all these different platforms, be able to discover what's there and expose it and make it available to the users to be able to plug it in. And then just those system level services to be able to interact with the platform. And that whole structure gives us the capability of building the next thing. And we don't even, not even diagramming out what the next thing is, but we want to make sure we build an extensible platform that allows us to do something that next year, next month, you come to us and say, hey, there's things that we want to add to this. We have a structure to plug that in and be able to make it work. And then, of course, the management services and the UI for the management side that the administrators plug into. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about kind of how we're structuring this and what this user interface will look like. And our goal is to meet users where they are at the moment that they need interaction. Stop making them become mainframe experts and tool experts to be able to do their work. They're there to build software for their company. They're insurance experts. We want to make sure we empower financial experts that are building applications to support their business. We don't want them to necessarily have to be BMC experts. We want them to be experts in what their business does. So we call this BMC AMI Assistant. It's what we basically are packaging around all of our Gen AI capabilities that are across our entire portfolio. Real-time assistance to their needs, where they are. And we also have to approach this from the standpoint of becoming a trusted partner. As the comment or the question at the very beginning of the discussion was, is AI a trick or a treat? And when you come at this from looking at just ChatGPT and you see the cool things that people, the images that people can create and the AI videos and everything else, you start to ask the questions about, is this just kind of a fad? Is this just something that you can't really trust it? We've all seen the hallucinations that come out from AI tools, the things that aren't really all that useful. So from the ground up, we've built this to be a trusted partner that enhances resilience, that you don't have to constantly challenge and say, this isn't useful to me. It's not perfect. No, you never trust that your AI is 100% perfect without your proper checks and balances. Just like I wouldn't trust somebody that's working for me to do everything right. It's always trust and verify. And the same thing applies to AI. It's almost more of an HR scenario that you have to, manage. I'm here in Las Vegas with an event that we've been doing. And one of my customers was speaking and said that he doesn't call himself a manager, he's a nerd herder. And because he knows he needs to look out for what they're doing and kind of guide and shape. I think of that a lot in the way that AI is a lot more like a person doing things, and you do need to understand the assumptions that they go into this with. Want to just make a statement, from a principle standpoint, you should always be sure that your data is your data and that your vendor's commitment to data integrity matches your own. And so we built the entire process from the ground up in those design principles. So the core foundation is on zero trust. So something that we think is pretty important in this. When we evaluate what we do with Amy Assistant, we're really looking at two vectors. We're looking at capabilities. So we see a continuum from a chat to an actions capability. And I saw in the chat earlier about, hey, what I want is to move from, just talking to my AI to where it can actually start taking actions for me on my behalf. And so we put this in this continuum as a guide to writing code, maybe creating scripts or SQL queries, creation of databases, or dashboards, etc. And then all the way to automate, where it can you trust the decisions that it's making to be able to take immediate actions so that you can protect the business. The second side beyond capabilities is then, what's the interaction model? How is it interacting with that user? Is there an conversational kind of a structure? Or is it a co-pilot where literally the AI assistant lives inside your tool? So like inside your IDE, like was just shown by the Broadcom team with the VS Code interaction. Is it a co-pilot that sits in the tool that you're already using? Or is it an autopilot that's working behind the scenes to make sure that you can automatically take action? That you can say, hey, send me a report on these 5 databases every week at 9 a.m. Because I want to get an action report from you on that. So there's a continuum from chat to actions there. So if we look at the first expression of this is we have our Code Insights tool, which is well known. It's quite popular, and we have it built in now that we've added Code Explain to this. And so Code Explain is very similar in many respects to what we saw here. Highlight the code, explain it, have a conversation, look at it and say, hey, this is the types of things that we are doing here. Be able to put it back in to the code as a comment for future users. We can also do things like be able to extract code and be able to refactor using some of this information and so on. So there's a lot of things that these AI tools, when properly positioned, can really help the developer take advantage of the fact that it's reaching out and using the structure and the LLM models to help explain what's going on, because there's just way too many lines of code for most developers to keep it all in their head. And to be able to enhance the productivity of a developer, being able to quickly explain what's happening really makes a difference. But by using the same platform, we've got, this is at a guide copilot level. If we look at the next thing that's coming down the pike here, and this will be kind of a forward-looking thing a little bit here, but we're using exactly the same structure, but in an AI ops sense, supercharging our ops insight capabilities, where we can do cause analysis, explain capabilities, be able to use machine learning and point out and be able to take autonomous action. So that's the power of the platform, is it exposes this kind of technology that we're not just learning about it from a development standpoint, but we're taking that same trained model and the retrieval augmented generation information that it knows about your environment, but also being able to plug that back in other ways, like with your ops capabilities, your data capabilities, security, and so on. That's really the power of that platform approach, because now we're able to use that in a lot of different ways. So lastly, I just want to talk briefly about, what we see here. In the thing that we really focus on, I talked about the hallucinations, is what we call probable relevance. And if you think about the way ChatGPT works, you've got your user prompt, it's relying on history. You may or may not get good results. It just kind of depends on how good you are at writing your prompts. If the information was out in the wild before 2023, and what information maybe you provided to be able to get that decision. But we're doing this with not just the user prompts, the chat history, the system prompts, personas, product knowledge, data, or our knowledge that we put into the tool, as well as customer knowledge. So we feel confident that you'll have a higher probability of relevance to that, all while maintaining the privacy and your flexibility of being able to change LLMs. So multi-agent intelligence is the approach, and that it's not just one LLM call, that it's not just one assistant, that it's actually farming out a lot of the work. As if it's a DevX problem, it farms out to the DevX agent and ops agent and so on. So overall, our approach is to use this when it's needed, no context switching, deploy on the platform you trust. We don't govern what LLM you use. We don't govern where you do it, whether you put it out on a hyperscaler or on-prem. You can use any model that you wish, and you can augment it as much or as little as you wish. So overall takeaways: data, insights, intelligence from our product lines that we provide. You bring your own LLM. You can augment it with your own knowledge base, your code base, the things, your support database, etc. We can help you automate those complex tasks and be able to act without a lot of human interaction. And it's based on an AI agent architecture, which allows you to do a lot more than just simply asking questions. So again, I'll leave this up. So if you want to get to the QR code, you can. And thank you, Mainframerz, for inviting us to have a talk.
Thanks very much, Tim. That was, once again, that was a really good presentation, really interesting. Certainly would make life easier for developers and ops and anybody in support.
Right.
Really looking forward to seeing more of the Amy Assistant. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the Q&A. Now, I don't know whether you've been keeping your eye on the chat, but there certainly has been a lot of chatter. So I'm opening the floor. Would anybody like to ask a question?
Can I throw one at Kevin? Just because I feel that's... Where are we going next, Kevin? You've done a great presentation, kind of where we're up to. Where are we going next? You're on mute.
Thank you. Was a hardware mute on my headphone again. Double safety here. I think, especially as mentioned in the presentation, the actionable AI is, I think, one of the best things to have directly to have our AI agents to do more for us and not just give us insight and ideas. And I also think especially the directly integrated solution of AI. When I think about using the Talon processor as an example, and during my transaction, I can have some AI accelerated calculation there, gives some whole new ideas. And I think a lot of companies are already doing it, bringing AI directly into the chip and make it faster and even more efficient.
There were a few questions that were on the chat as well. If I think one of them was to Tim around how do you tackle the problem of prompt hacking, prompt injecting on your models? Do you have some kind of prompt filter?
So a lot of the prompting is actually done within the tool. You're not at least the initial prompt is not something that the user directly affects. So that initial statement is done by the tool itself. Then from there, we'll be able to change the prompt generation, ask questions, etc. But so we don't really, and this isn't a prompt like it's not out on a web server somewhere that just anybody can hit. You're literally within your own tool. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to ask it crazy questions, you're probably going to get a little bit crazy answers. Just like if you went and played around in your database system and started asking things that didn't really make sense, then you're not going to get the answers that you really are looking for. So it's not as big of an issue as it would be in a chat GPT sort of public environment. But I think we're still at the very early stages of being able to, I hate to use the word idiot proof it, but there's probably a little bit of aspect of that from a technical point. It's probably a technical term that we should use, is we need to still idiot proof a lot of this stuff. And I don't know that that's all entirely done today, but wait till next week, right? I mean, I have been tracking quite a few different efforts around multi-level agent architectures that one of the agents is a hallucination checker. And that's part of our overall architecture design. We don't put it on the screen, but we certainly build a lot of effort into making sure that there's not hallucinations, that the answers you're getting are backed by real data.
That was Kevin's question. I stole that from him.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just looking through the questions and trying to answer some of them, but yeah, it was probably easier just to talk about them with our limited time left.
Yeah, quite right. There's a question from Stuart. He's asked me, how will AI help DB2 work? Well, we've got SQL data insights with DB2 13. That provides the software, the SQL developer, with functions to do AI analytics on your data, having built your model beforehand. So you select what data you want to build your model on. You go away, it does that, and then you come back and you can run your SQL analytical functions against the model. And the other thing is DB2 AI, which is a AI-driven optimizer for DB2. So that has shown to improve response times. I don't know that much about it, but that's something something else that's also out there in DB2 land. Interesting question from Andrew Brisland. Will all the companies work together if a customer uses all their products? I'm not at liberty to reply to that one.
I'll take a stab at that.
I'll just speak up here. Hi. Yeah, I come from a freelancer side. So I've been in many companies, and in the real world, companies use all the tools, don't they? They have one company's tool for change management, one company's tool for tool for output analysis, etc., etc. So go on, give me a spiel.
Well, so I'll take a stab at that. So we, as part of the Open Mainframe project, have proposed a project that would bring together all the mainframe vendors to create a mainframe knowledge base with the base concepts as well as the product documentation that anybody can just go and get an understanding of. So we are working through the process of getting that project approved and getting the other partners onboarded. If you are interested, if you want to throw your weight behind that and like just a vote saying this is a good idea, I think that'll help us a lot. But that is essentially the thought process that we are looking at is for the vitality of the ecosystem and the platform itself, it would make sense for the vendors to collaborate and create a quote unquote knowledge base that can be managed, maintained in an open source fashion.
That's
I would
perfect.
agree.
That's
and
perfect.
I do think that there's a information, and I said this when I was talking, that DevOps to me is one of the key areas, and I think AI needs to follow the model as far as DevOps goes, that where it's more important about how you interoperate with everyone than the absolute performance of your piece of the puzzle. The fact that of how well you play nice with everybody else is almost more valuable in a lot of ways. And so, obviously from a BMC perspective, our partnership with IBM has been incredibly strong. From the hardware side, we're looking forward with bated breath to be able to do a lot of things with the new technologies that you announced at Hot Chips, et cetera. It's exciting stuff. It's an exciting time to be a part of the mainframe. And so we, by all means, are very eager to take full advantage of the Telum 2 processors, the Spire processors, and so on. So yes, by all means, we think that it's important that we make sure that we enable our tooling to plug into that, and we make sure that we take full advantage of everything that's available out there.
Maybe just to also add my 2 cents on that one. I think what is really awesome is by some presentations, Hugging Face was mentioned. I also know that, as an example, IBM is publish models over there which can be used by different companies. And we also took a look on different models by different companies. So I think especially the results which are being shared on the public community there are pretty awesome. And I think this is also one of the advantages by today's time is, as an example, we by Beta Systems, all the APIs we are building are planned to scale by nature and can be published at least. So for sure, we won't make everything public always because something has to also be closed source, but we can make it public and add connectors on that one whenever needed, so we can benefit from corporations.
I'd like to throw my penneth, as I'm an Open Mainframe ambassador, and though I work for a vendor, I think what Tim was saying, it's a good idea to share knowledge, because particularly in the open source environment, and as AI is becoming more and more ubiquitous, certainly we could share our knowledge and experiences with AI. But let's face it, I'm really encouraged to see with those who have got their cameras on, the number of people with their own hair and teeth, because let's face it.
How can you tell?
I mean, they
I
could
have
all
to say, Marcus, this isn't all my own hair.
They could all be AI generated, but yeah, the biggest threat facing mainframers at the moment is grayware. And I know Broadcom, I know, bald and bearded, Snap. Broadcom, BMC, Rocket, on behalf of IBM, are all developing stuff to make developing on the mainframe more attractive to the younger generations, those who aren't rapidly approaching retirement.
And to add to that, Marcus, I think I've found, especially coming from I come from a less technical background, coming from user experience design, AI has definitely opened up so much opportunity to make it more accessible for the likes of myself and the likes for kind of the new generation of mainframers that are coming in. So I, for one, am really excited to continue to work in that space as well. And it's something that I am really interested in. And probably one of the most exciting things I've been part of over the last few years of working at IBM. So I'm really looking forward to watching this space, and I'm sure it's going to have a big impact in bringing it in a lot more mainframers and newer mainframers.
Good comments. Thanks, Sam. Any more discussion points? We are rapidly approaching the end of our slot.
We've got so much conversation going on in the chat, so I've been rapidly reading through it.
DevOps is now platform engineering. And yeah, it's not machine learning anymore, it's just AI. Yeah, we'll put the meeting on the YouTube channel, and we'll advertise it on all our normal socials. But other than that, all remains is for me to thank everybody for contributing to a really interesting discussion. Everybody from all the vendors from IBM, thank you very much. This has been a very good discussion. I really enjoyed it. And once we release the recording, why not just tell all your friends to come and watch it, and then tell them all to come and join Mainframers meetup for the next one.
There you go.
There you go. Fab. I shall
Definitely
bring
will do that.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thank
I
you.
will
Thank
bring
you.
the QR code up again for the survey. Here we go. Let us know what you thought on a scale of 0 to 10. How much have we changed your opinion of AI on the mainframe? Question number 2, what topic would you like to hear more about at a future Mainframers event? Please complete our feedback survey, and we shall see you soon, and hopefully, possibly face-to-face in another hybrid one. Who knows? We'll let you know. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers, folks. Bye now.